Rwanda was recently admitted to the OECD Development Centre, becoming the 55th member of the organization and the first member from the East African community. CNBC Africa's Stephen Muvunyi sat down with Soraya Hakuziyaremye, Minister of Trade and Industry, to discuss what this means in the country's economy.
It took roughly 4 years, but we're glad that in the end, we became member of the Development Centre, especially that this is an opportunity for Rwanda to share its development experience with other member states. It's also, I think, a testimony to Rwanda's development journey and the progress we have made in the last 25 years to be able to be admitted to Development Centre, to be admitted as a member, meaning that we can share our lessons with the other member states. And I believe, this is something that we should be really happy and proud about. But also this is, I think, also a challenge for us, because then we're going to be assessed by the other member states. And it's a good thing that we're also challenged on the development trajectory that we're on.
Statistics indicate that as of 2017, the OECD member states collectively comprised 60% of global nominal GDP. It's such a big organization, and I'm curious to know what exactly the country, Rwanda, is going to be contributing. Could you take us through maybe even Rwanda's obligations and what the country brings in it?
So you would be surprised, because our annual contribution to the OECD is not more than, I think it's around $6,000. So it's not a costly organization to belong to when you compare to the benefits you can derive from it, as long as you're active enough to take advantage of what they have to offer. And OECD member countries and other development center countries are among the richest in the world, which is why you have the highest, proportion of GDP going in a very unproportional way to those countries. But that's the way it is. But now when you, I think, listen to and exchange with those countries on how they're dealing with, inequalities, for instance. This is something, as you're developing, that it's lessons you learn, but also making sure that you don't fall in the traps of, inequality, or what developed countries are facing now. And I think for that matter, examples they were giving about, the fact that, for instance, in OECD countries, so the richest of the OECD Development Centre, if I can say so, they are seeing how the middle class has shrunk. The fact that an OECD study revealed that in most of OECD countries, if people in the middle class were to lose 3 months of salaries, they would be considered in the poverty line, which shows you how vulnerable now the middle class, even in developed countries, is also, being shaken by the economic crisis that many countries in Europe and the US have known since 2008.
Before we take a look into other matters, what should be our expectations in terms of trade relations with OECD member countries? Is the fact that Rwanda has been admitted, is it going to have any change in terms of trade with other countries?
Where we hope that we can see the benefits in terms of trade relations, mostly with non-traditional partners of Rwanda. We've had trade relations with most OECD countries, be it European Union countries, the US, South Korea is a member of OECD. So these are, countries we already have relations with, trade relations, diplomatic relations, investments from. But now it's also having access in a trade context to some countries you would not think about for instance, Latin American countries where we don't have enough of those trades, but this is a forum where we meet them, and actually they were very enthusiastic in learning about Rwanda and what we can offer. Of course, these are countries that we can say they are far away from Rwanda, but it is China further away than Brazil or Guatemala, which is a country that joined OECD Development Centre at the same time as we are. And it gives us access to those countries, and it's up to us to really see where we could trade more, what do we need from them, what do they need from us, and use that forum to nurture more trade relations.
Mm-hmm. Minister, I want you to talk to me about other regional bodies that Rwanda already belongs to, like the Economic Community of the Great Lakes, also known as the CEPGL in French. So how significant are they to Rwanda's trade and economy? Because some people argue that some of these organizations have become obsolete. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on this?
My thoughts is that if you take CEPGL countries, so Rwanda, DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and Burundi, we do trade with them in natural. So CEPGL had not like a common market framework that EAC has, for instance, but then we trade with Burundi through the EAC common market. We trade with DRC in cross-border trade, but we're also part of COMESA. So these are, important partners for us, as any neighbor should be. And if we take the example of DRC, for instance, our exports to DRC were around $230 million, or approximately that. With Burundi, we see that there's been a decrease in our trade, but due to the political instability that we all know. But still, we managed to also export around $3 million worth of goods to Burundi. So I would not say that CEPGL is obsolete. It's just that on the trade aspect, we already trade through EAC or through COMESA with both countries, and the goal is to continue on that trend and make sure that we can trade more. And as Ministry of Trade and Industry, can we export more to our neighboring countries? That's what will help us reduce the trade deficit. As you know, it's one of our challenges now.